My name is Michael McCrae, Mining Audience Manager at Kitco Mining. Kitco is your leading source for precious metal news. Welcome again to Newfoundland Gold's Virtual Investor Day. It's 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Stay win, and up next is our first panel. Under the next hour, we'll be running an interactive session with help from Michael Collins with Exploits Discovery, Blake Morgan with Opawika Explorations, Shawn Ryan with Leocore Gold. The four of us will start off with some Q&A, but again, this is interactive. Please ask questions using virtual conference software, and I will pass on to our panel. Now, first up, I would like to invite our panelists onto the screen right now. Shawn, I was going to get Michael to set us up, but maybe we could start with you first, and maybe you could talk about what is really exciting about Newfoundland and maybe just a bit about the geology, Shawn.
Thank you. Yeah, Newfoundland is actually very unique. And once I started doing my research, like I'm coming from the Yukon, like the actual geological setting and the setup for this gold system is extremely unique. And same as the age of the timing. And that's what I talk about in my talk. So yeah, Newfoundland is like it's got all the key ingredients for a big district play here. And I think this is going to just keep going. The geology is set up perfect here.
Could you talk about that further, Shawn? What is the geology? What are the trends? And just basically in the island, what are kind of the major regions?
Well, the gist of it is it was a big regional structural setup. And it was actually at a specific time, the Selenic and the Silurian time. And it was, so the uniqueness of the continents collided with each other. And then this gold pulse that actually happened at the same time, with, or basically the same event, created a unique setting that you don't really see too many spots in the world. But Australia is very, very close, and that analogy to the Fosterville is I agree with that.
Blake, I'd like to bring you in. What was your interest that was piqued in what was happening in Newfoundland?
Well, our flagship assets are on the Abitibi Greenstone Cadillac Larder Fault. So we modeled our move into the Newfoundland based on that structure. So that's sort of where we looked at where we wanted to get in and how we wanted to go about sort of thing. So we moved on to the Marathon Gold side. Obviously, Marathon Gold is creating some good numbers and some fantastic deposits. So that's sort of what brought us into the region, and we're following up on that model system. I know Raymond James just put out something in regards to the Abitibi and Newfoundland, and there's a few more reports coming out over the next few weeks. So you're going to see a bit more in that correlation between those two regions.
I like to describe, because I mean, Newfoundland really kind of arose, I would say. I've just kind of heard more and more of it. And then obviously with also the success of Denis Laviolette, and he'll be talking later, the success and the run up that Newfoundland Gold has. But can we talk about how it suddenly came onto everybody's radar? I'll start with you, Shawn.
Well, say again. I didn't quite catch that.
Maybe I'll.
So we heard about what Newfoundland Gold was doing back when they were private, and that sort of got us into that region. And I think a lot of people were down that same route. Now, we started looking quite early, so it was last year. We started to make some moves. We worked closely with Michael Collins from Exploits as well, and obviously they picked up a really large land package. So that was the sort of fundamentals that brought us into that region. I know Opawika itself started gaining ground next to where Shawn was picking up ground, I think with C2C Gold. And that's sort of how we went into the region.
Well, I came to the island back in 2014 and started researching it before anybody showed up. And then in 2015, we actually launched an exploration program across the island, just taking regional soils to see if we could get a response. And like we could do it off of claims because there was nobody really jumping around in there too much. So we did our basically science and had a look at the data and realized, yeah, we could actually locate these basically anomalous structures And then we jumped in 2016, led to the kind of a big stake-in rush. Well, stake-in overnight. We crashed the server, and the government server was down for 2 weeks. And then as soon as it popped back up again, that's when Newfound Gold tied on to us to the south. And that's kind of what launched this whole kind of start of looking at, you know, these gold systems in Newfoundland.
You talked about crashing the server, Shawn. I'm just going to take this to Blake first. I mean, it's an area that is suddenly seeing a lot of interest. What is the type of support that you see in Newfoundland for the types of exploration work that you're doing, Blake?
Well, you've definitely got government support. It's a very mining-friendly jurisdiction. Tax breaks is fantastic. Crews is easy to find. So the more the area picks up and the more discoveries that are made, the more simple it's going to be for companies like ourselves. You know, you've got your standouts of Newfound Gold, obviously doing some fantastic stuff. You know, they got 8 drill rigs going, 100,000 meters. You got Marathon Gold, obviously just raised $50 million. They're doing some amazing stuff. So structure and infrastructure will pick up as deposits are made, discoveries are produced, and that's just going to basically help everyone in the region. And now you've got tax breaks with the government funding and stuff like that, which is going to be phenomenal. So when you're spending money on your exploration, you're getting a lot of it back, which is, for small junior mining companies, that's fantastic. It just gives us more money to put into the ground, which creates more discoveries.
Shawn, the question about support from the government and just the infrastructure for the work that you do.
In my mind, I'm always from the exploration side. Like the Geological Survey of Newfoundland is probably one of the best ones I've ever seen. And that's really, you know, that led me to basically be able to research from remote through this COVID time. And yeah, I can't say enough kudos for the Geological Survey. Like, they have geophysicists on staff, they have geochemists on staff, they have, you know, structural geologists. Like, the stuff they did over the last 30 years, it's actually what's launched and is helping us as an industry jump into this next gold rush. So it all starts with a good gold map or a good map, and that's what the survey is providing. And they've been providing this, you know, for the last over 100 years now. They've been as a survey. So yeah, no, we can't say good enough about these guys.
Shawn, stakeholder relations in terms of the local communities and the support of what the exploration people are doing.
Well, like the first time I got there, my little story is when we were in Millertown, like, we actually got a call within hours from the mayor looking for a job to get out in the bush. So people just do want to get out to work. They want us to find deposits, and they're like, you know, and they're the friendliest people on the planet. Yeah, like, I can't, like, it. So it was the perfect storm and the perfect, you know, the Newfoundland as a whole. They export a bunch of miners out across the country. So they're miner types. So they would love for us to find a mine on the island, so they don't have to leave the island to go to work. Yeah, no, it's kind of, so the whole setup from roads everywhere. We're used to using helicopters in Yukon. There's roads to 70 to 75% of the ground here. Yeah, it's kind of so it's a different part of the world. But from an exploration, you know, we have all this rest of the stuff from the money side. The key was the Geological Survey that set the whole setup up, set the shots up. And now we're able to take that data from the surficial maps to till maps to geology maps to these like, you know, to the whole package, and take that and run with this now. So, like, that's, to me, it was the setup, was the survey that started this.
Well, like Shawn touched on, it's fantastic. The people in the region are fantastic. You know, we've got a lot of mining companies moving in now, so there's a lot of jobs available, but it doesn't seem too difficult finding, you know, the workers, because these people really want to get out on the ground. They're excited about the gold rush that's happening in the region. They're excited about what's going to produce in the future, and, you know, we're jumping on board with that. So, you know, and like Shawn mentioned, with the road infrastructure, you've got power. I'm used to doing a lot of programs up in the Golden Triangle where it absolutely costs you a fortune to fly around, and your drill programs are ridiculously priced. Whereas in Newfoundland, it's very, very cheap. You know, you can drive to a lot of these spots. The small helicopter support you may need is very easy to get. Drill rigs don't seem like too much of an issue, even though there's a lot getting around at the moment. So it's set up quite nicely. It's quite good, actually. You can work all year round, but it just depends on where you are. So you've got some swampy area. So, you know, we like to try and stay out of the sludge, but working through winter is not too much of an issue. But obviously, you know, your summer, spring is fantastic to get out on the ground. Shawn could tell you a bit more about that, definitely.
Shawn.
Yeah, and that's actually originally why I started researching there, was to actually get a shoulder season for the Yukon explorers up in the Yukon, because we really only get, like, you know, June to September to drill with the diamond drill. So we're caught with, you know, the 30, 40 below. So Newfoundland, the irony here is we could soil right until December, like right until just before Christmas with a skip of snow, because we're not getting 30, 40 below. But you could drill all year round. And that's what's the difference here, the big difference from kind of working. Like, I still love to work in the Yukon, but here we could actually work 12 months of the year, and the juniors could still get their news flow kind of continuously through the winter. So so I like it, because now we could soil for 6 months out of the year, and that's what we're planning to do. And then we could still continue to rab drill through the winter, set it up for some nice diamond drill targets for the spring. So it's a nice, you're not rushed. And that's what I like. And what I could accomplish in 1 year in Newfoundland takes me about 2 to 3 years in the Yukon. So that's why we really like, it's the season, the nice big window to work with. Well, there's power almost, you know, there's communities everywhere. So there's power everywhere. And they have these big grids cutting across the island. So that's why, like, there's almost roads everywhere. The power is probably, like, I don't know exactly the price, but I bet you they got to be competitive with Quebec. The ports, anywhere you are within basically 125 clicks of anywhere on the island, you're within a port range. So you know, the infrastructure is set up, and the people are, like, you know, and that's what I was getting at, that from a miner's point of view, that's where our population of miners are. So you could find a mine, but who's going to mine it? So you need these people. Actually, it's interesting. There is some, I guess there is some First Nations, but it's not as prevalent as up in the Yukon, let's say, or other parts of Canada.
Yeah, certainly. So, well, the standouts obviously for me are Newfound Gold and Marathon Gold. So we'll touch on Marathon slightly. You know, they're not spoken about much in compared to the new plays, you know, but they have a monster deposit. They've just raised $50 million, and they'll be producing a mine over the next few years. So you've got them. Obviously, Newfound Gold is doing some fantastic stuff. They're pulling numbers basically not seen before. I think they've got 8 drill rigs going, 100,000 a meter drill program. So they're doing some fantastic stuff. Then you've got companies like Sockman, Labrador, and Exploits. Obviously, Exploits just had Newfound Gold invest into them. They've got Eric Sprott's come in twice. So they're doing some fantastic stuff, and they've got a major land package. Sockman, obviously, they've got some fantastic drill holes. They're currently drilling at the moment. I think they're doing about 50,000 meters. So I expect to see some good stuff coming out of them. Then you've got Labrador, for example. They just put out some drill results, and they're doing about a 50,000 meter program as well. They're fully funded, and they'll be doing some fantastic stuff. You've got Eric Sprott putting money into, you know, a lot of these companies in the region. Our company itself, we're going to be oversubscribing our financing at $5 million. We put some news out today. So, that's sort of where we're sitting. Shawn's got some fantastic stuff. I'll let him go into a little bit more of it.
Well, to me, the gist of the island is it's still brand new, and that's from an exploration point of view. So to me, it's kind of interesting. Like there's the juniors that are ahead of the pack right now because they've been there for a few years, but it's kind of, to me, almost everybody's equal. We're coming out. That's what's kind of cool about Newfoundland is, all structure has a good probability. So from Cape Ray all the way to Bay Bird, and this is what's so unique about the island. So we needed someone like Eric Sprott to basically grease the wheels from an exploration point of view. So this kind of reminds me of when Murray Pezin was financing the Hemlo discovery. You needed someone to back the exploration side. So Eric has jumped in, and that is fantastic for us. And now we just got to crack a couple of good codes on the exploration side, and which is potentially deeper soils, and this kind of attack with geochemistry. And then we just hit it with, that's why we're trying to bring rab drills. Blake probably knows them from Australia, but we don't use it that much in Canada. So all of a sudden now we could get some cheaper exploration going in. And it's the cool part is the whole island's just starting to come. It hasn't had a good exploration like this since 1988 to 89 when Noranda did the last big push. And so I think we're just picking up the torch where they left off. And basically with all this new data from the survey, this is just the beginning.
That was an interesting.
Yeah, well, I wasn't actually going to touch on the rab drilling. I was going to touch on, the alliance itself. So, it's not a competition in this region. The more discoveries that are made by all the players is better for the whole region. The Gold Spot, for an example, are doing some fantastic stuff with their AI technology, and they're looking at stuff. So they've got some fantastic data. Obviously, Newfound Gold's got some fantastic data. So the more that comes out, the better it is for everyone. And I suspect this year is going to be a really big year over in Newfoundland.
I will say that
I was just going to say, because we're on an island, high tide rises all boats. So if your neighbor hits, everybody's gaining. And that's what this is about. We're almost done our staking. There's still some more going on. But the reality is, once all the staking's done, we want our neighbors to be successful because everybody's winning. And that's that's what's kind of cool now. We're going to go into that phase of exploration where everybody's rooting everybody else on.
yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a key characteristic to the region. He doesn't throw money at crap. He knows what he's looking at, and that's why he's funding a lot of these companies. So when it comes to the region, that's something you want to look at. What's Eric putting some money into? What's he looking at? And then go from there. You obviously want to look at the players involved, the assets, their funding, those sort of things. But yeah, it's a big push with Eric getting involved, and I suspect some more major players to be getting into the area over the next few months.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of ones that, one reminds me of the Hemlo discovery, you know, at the beginning stages in Northern Ontario. And it's also a little bit like the Diamond Rush. And what I'm getting at is right now people are still sitting there going, is this real? Is this real? So you had their first movers come in and start picking up ground up there. But now with these better numbers that keep coming from Newfound Gold, it's starting to dawn on people. And it's kind of like when Hemlo, you know, after about a month or, you know, 2 months, people started going back to the bush, staking further out and further out. And it's kind of like what happened with the diamonds. You had their first movers, and then once it solidified, people started moving up there even more. So I don't even think we've hit that phase yet, because we're actually strategically, you know, staking ground that has structure and has these key components. We haven't gone into the blanket phase yet, which eventually hits basically these regional plays. So I think we're still at the, you know, we still got a few more innings left in this to go, but I think it's just starting to dawn on people that Newfoundland might be a special place geologically here.
Yeah, so well, our flagship assets are on the Cadillac Larder fault break system. So that's what we modeled ourselves on when we moved over to the Rogerson structure corridor. So that's the model we went. But like Shawn was saying, you know, you look at places like the Golden Triangle, you know, many years ago, you could squeeze in there. Now there's no room. You know, the Abitibi as well, you know, the whole thing's staked out. And that's what we're seeing over in Newfoundland. Basically, in the next few months, people going to be staking the water. You know, that's how hot the region is. So they're the sort of parallels we're looking at. And if you look at what's taking place in those regions, well, I suspect that's what we're going to sort of see in Newfoundland over the next few months, over the next year or two. Yeah, fantastic. So we just put out some news today. Obviously, we're going to be oversubscribed, $5 million. We're fully budgeted for a 10,000 meter drill program. So our flagship assets are actually in Quebec. So we have four assets in Quebec. Our two flagships are the Bazooka and the Arrowhead property. We have some phenomenal grades on the Bazooka property, similar to, well, not as sexy as Newfound Gold, but quite good. So we've got stuff like 5 meters over 90 grams, 1 meter over 315 grams, 5 meters over 45 grams. So we got some good numbers. So we plan to drill 5,000 meters on that property this year. It's contiguous to the Wasamac gold property that was bought for $150 million last year, owned by Yamada. It's also contiguous to the Yorbo Resources property, which is optioned by Iron Gold. They're currently drilling 200 to 300 meters from our Bazooka shaft and hitting some fantastic numbers. So we're going to be hitting that property this year. Then also we've got the Arrowhead property. We plan on drilling 5,000 meters there. That's completely surrounded by Agnico Eagle. Agnico Eagle pulled about 900,000 ounces just off the border of our property in the last year. So we know there's gold in the region. We've got some great grades there, 90 grams over a meter. So that's sort of our focus. On top of that, we have 39,000 hectares in Newfoundland. So we've got about $1 million budget so far allocated for that, and we're going to be bringing them up to a drill-ready stage, you know, in the next few months. We obviously put some news out to say we're going to be oversubscribed $5 million today, and we're going to be closing that this Friday. Once we get that things wrapped up, we're going to have a lot more information coming out. So that's me in a whole, but there's a lot of news I can't talk about just yet, but I will be shortly. Yeah, I certainly can. So Agnico, they've got the LaRonde mine, and they're looking for the LaRonde 2, basically. Then right next door to us, you've got IM Gold, and they've got the West Haven mine. I think that's opened back up now. They had a seismic event there, I think, last year, which shut them down for a little bit. So the whole region's hot. We've got mills all the way down on the fault system. We've got major players completely surrounding us. Agnico is drilling completely around our border at the moment, seeing what's around. So it holds well for what we possibly have on our assets.
Shawn, Leocor, what have you got planned there?
Leocor's got they got an advanced project in the Bay Bird area, so we're planning to basically just go and polish that up with maybe some trenching and probing, but then get ready to rab drill that probably by August, I'm assuming. And the rest of the projects that we picked up, they're basically based on these regional structurals patterns that we could see from the mag and geology with some till, and we're basically going to hit that with probably roughly around 25,000 soils and start systematically mowing down these structures with these big regionals. And then if the magic has it, that should actually turn out some nice targets. And then we'll follow that up. Probably what's nice is we could follow that up right up until December with, you know, with more soils, tightening up the grids, and then get ready to hit that with rab drilling in the spring of 2022 with the potential diamond drilling by that summer. So it's kind of a systematic exploration approach. But you know what the cool part about this is? 90% of this ground has never been looked at. This is what's remarkable. And a lot of these things are on the roads. So it's like, I think Newfoundland is poised to take off here. And that's what we're going to do, is mow it down with these big geochemical programs. Well, it's going to be interesting because we're at the beginning stages, like between most of the projects that I staked this winter, from fall to winter, we're planning to do roughly like, that's what Sassy, Leocor, and C2C, we're planning to do about we're in close to 100,000 soils. So the idea is that we're going to mow this district down on the structures. We're not wildcatting, kind of like Yukon was a shotgun approach. This is more targeted, and that's what I like from an exploration. Is purely structure that we're chasing down, trying to figure out what parts of these structures are anomalous. But what's going to develop here is there's going to be, this is what happened in 88 and 89 to Noranda. They made so many discoveries, and that was based on the Lakeside survey that got put out. There was a big map put out at once, and then everybody jumped on it. In a 1.5 year window, they made so many discoveries, they actually couldn't process them. And this is hence why they would drill a hole, basically hit 2 meters of 1/2 ounce material, and then keep moving because it was good but not good enough, because they had 40 other targets in their sights. And then when the super flow through crashed in 89, that shut the tap off. And actually Noranda had a new president change by 90, laid pretty well everybody off, and the world hasn't took off since then. So, and they were basing part of this on geochemistry. So now we're going to hit the island, and I expect us to start seeing flashes everywhere. And that's kind of what happened when we hit the Yukon hard, you know, in the Klondike Gold District. We only had a few gold showings. You know, after 3 or 4 years of this intense geochemistry, there's probably 40 or 50 of them that were discovered, and a few deposits. So that's kind of what I see this pathway here going forward. So it's going to be, so some of the companies like Leocor, they have a big land package. That's the idea. It was, you know, Newfoundland, it's cheap to stake. They're like fishermen. They bait their hooks easy. You bite on it. You pay the basically the staking costs and the down payment, and then you're hooked. But you got to do work every year. And so that's what, you know, it's a double-edged sword. So you got to, you know, you can't sit on a piece of real estate for 10 years because it's costing you money all the time. So the idea is to hit it hard, figure out your district, and then kind of get your targets honed in by year 3. And that's kind of the overall goal. But it's this is a rare opportunity. Like I never imagined that we could find a place like this. It's in Canada. This could be a third world country that just opened up for the first time here. So that's what's unique about Newfoundland here.
I'm going to be asking Blake the same question in just a minute. That was terrific, Shawn. I have to ask, because you did bring it up as well too. What is it like kind of getting drill results out of the lab these days?
Well, the lab might be a little bit slower, but how's this from a soil point of view? We've actually set it up that we could get a prep lab that we basically set up with the Eastern Analytical guys, and we could get a 25-day turnaround from our soil program. So we've designed it so that we could actually go in, get some data, go back to like move to another project, and we can move around the project systematically and get data coming back within a month turnaround. So this is what I love about from a geochemical program. We should be able to go in and out of these programs 3 or 4 times over the next 6 months, following up on good data. So it's the labs now from the drilling side, that might be a little bit more slower like it normally is, but from the soil point of view, we've speeded this up.
Blake, somebody comes up to you at the next show when we're, when we can see each other physically at whichever mining show you mentioned as well too. They're interested in the space. How would you tell them to actually kind of model opportunities in Newfoundland? And maybe if you could talk about what you see some of the major milestones as jurisdictionally coming up.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Like Shawn said, it's not always about who was in first, because the area has got so much exploration potential. But I look at certain things like funding. Yeah, obviously you want to make sure the company is going to be able to fund itself. There's no point investing in something that's going to sit there and do nothing for 10 years. Then you go into the assets. You want to make sure they've got some quality assets. But again, it's hard in this region because it's very underexplored. Some of the best things we're going to probably find is stuff with no showings on it. We're not sure of what's there. So I think a lot will come out over the next 6 to 12 months on where to look and how to go about it. I think the Sprott investment, is a bit of a key. Sprott's throwing money into a company. Well, that's something to certainly look at. I like the work Goldspot's doing over there. I like the technology they're using. I like the way they're going about it. So, I think people that are looking at Goldspot and using them, I think that's something you want to look at. Obviously, the team, when you got superstars like Shawn Ryan or Michael Collins, who are, great geologists on your team, that sort of mitigates a lot of risk. So, they're the sort of things you want to look for when you're looking to get into the region, I would suspect. But there's a lot of opportunity. That's for sure. There is a lot of opportunity.
You did mention it, so it was Goldspot, and that's Denis Laviolette's. That's using AI and then using modeling. So is that a potential way in terms of kind of getting exposure to Newfoundland, just given what their business model is, Blake? I'm sorry, this might not be a fair question. It's more a question for Denis, but
yeah, I'll give you I won't go into it too much, but I think the short answer is yes. Goldspot have a lot of data in the region. They're working with a lot of companies, so they know a lot more than a lot of other people. So the way they go about it is they basically grab all the data and they go through it and they work out the patterns and they work out what's going in the region. So I think yes, it does hold a bit of weight.
Okay, I'm going to go to your questions right now, and I'm going to throw this to you, Blake. I'm going to phrase it this way. This was from Alessandro, and then they're just asking about projections for the price of gold. But how about if we put it this way? What was your interest in this particular space, and what was the interest in terms of focusing on the commodity?
Well, we've been in the gold sector for some time now. So what my group likes to do is basically when a commodity's not doing the best is the best time to enter that region. So obviously gold's hot at the moment, so gold properties are very valuable at this time. So if you can get in early, that's the best time. Obviously, gold price, well, I think that's pretty straightforward in a certain way. Basically, the world's printing a bunch of money, economies are down, inflation's going to go through the roof, and gold price is going to soar. That's the way we see it. We think, over the next few months, we're going to see it go over $2,000, and it's going to maintain that. So that's sort of the route we're thinking.
I have a question here from Chris Bannock. Shawn, I'm going to throw it to you. They were asking, how would you compare Newfoundland Gold's and Newfoundland Gold, of course, Denis Laviolette and Colin Cattell's company that we've been mentioning. How would you compare their discovery to Great Bear Resources in Red Lake area?
Actually, I'm not 100% sure. Like, I've watched the Great Bear talk. But Newfound Gold's discovery is very, very unique. It's different. And if they're comparing it to the Swan discovery, like in Fosterville, I agree with all the data that's pointing this. So that's very different. It's very unique. And the Swan is kind of like it's the ultimate. We're on an island, pirate's chest, like with full of gold. It's very small, like it's only about 100 meters by 100 meters, but it may have up to 3 million ounces in it. So it's super rich. So that's a very unique setting. Now, I would normally not look for that as an exploration because you might as well go looking for diamond pipes. It's about as rare. But they've actually stumbled across something like this that looks a lot like this near surface on Newfound Gold's discovery, on the Keats stuff. So what that's going to do from an exploration point of view is if these guys keep banging some good holes out of there and build some ounces, that's going to drive the confidence. Marathon coming out with their basically, kissing over 4 million ounces, but it's a little bit lower grade. And this is high grade and it's unique. And if it's like the Swan, that's going to give the confidence to the market that they're going to go hunting for this for the next 10 years. And so, and the big thing that we have to realize, and this is what, from my research, 80% of the gold discoveries on the island right now were from the Noranda days, 88 to 89. There was another 15% found in 2002 to 4. And then the last 5% was in the last few years. So the point is, this island is prime. And if we have these basically Keats showings or Swan type deposits sitting out there, this is going to drive the market. And, now we got Eric here. So what I'm hoping is the science drives this to new discoveries. And then this thing should just keep going for the next 5 to 10 years.